So for the second brass lines, I used, of course, again, Avenger, and I used some angry brass from Europarty sample pack. And let's listen it in a solo so you can imagine how it sounds. So as you see in an effect chain in the core, you can see multi-band distortion effect. I set up it with a pretty simple way. So I just turned a little bit this section low, mid, and high range, and already with this settings, it sounds really nice. And another effect which is work inside of Avenger is a vintage chorus. Pretty simple settings with just 15% in a mix. I don't want to make it hoarse too much because I don't want some electronic type of sound. Well, I need some heavy and drive brass section, which is a little bit looks to the real brass. So I just not putting a lot, of course, effect to this instrument. And multiband distortion is working with 100% to the mix. Yeah, as you see, this multi-band distortion work pretty nice. I like how the saturation and distortion work with some sounds, and this really make interesting effect in a sound design work when you work with instruments like that. Well, and let's listen now to brass section. I worked with Avenger as well. What I made, I just changed the sound of instrument and the brass. And also I worked in this section with reverberation and delays. Also I worked with this section with the filters. And for this moment, I think we can a little bit add more drive and a little bit resonances, so it sounds more heavy. So let's listen the hook part together. And as you see, I also changing the sound of piano. So in the first part of hook, I played with low notes, and then I'm moving up. So I'm using some high range, so it makes some crispy effect. So the piano is going a little bit higher because it sounds in high range. So yeah, I like these things. And during the arrangement and composing, I always trying to record instruments in different frequency ranges. For example, if I have a piano in a high range, I will not put some samples on the same frequency range. I will not put some instruments, some other stuff, because potentially they will conflict with each other. And that's why I love to use some layers for the different instruments. This can give a huge sound, but will not harm the integrity of the mix. But layering technique must be done with the right way. Well, I think we will talk about this a bit later. For example, I have layers, few layers for the high piano, few layers for the synths, like in this track. So for example, I have few layers of brass section, and here is a piano, which is sound with different pans to the sides. Okay, so now we are going next to the second verse, and here I add some flutes. Sometimes it's really good idea to add some real instruments in the electronic music, and I think it gives some fresh sounds, some fresh feelings to the song, and the electronic track becomes sound more realistic, something like that. So I add flutes, and I use some flute from Avenger, which is called Real Solo Piccolo Flute. And another flute is from KONTAKT library, from Metropolis Library 4. It's really huge library with a lot of different orchestras, with a lot of strings, woodwinds, brass section, even percussion or stuff like that. So I use some few layers of flutes in this song. Pretty interesting melody. The funny thing was that I came up with this melody because I listened in my car some classical music, and I found something catchy in the orchestral music, and then I put this melody here, and not with the same way. A little bit I make some changes, but something similar I just listened on the radio. So next we are going to the breakdown. It's just some part, rhythmic part with the bass and drum section and nothing else. So I just want to put the energy of this track a little bit lower, so then I can go up with the energy and composition to the hook part. So this part is just heavy bass, some melody in plucks, synths, and rhythm section. And the last thing which I made in the last part, in the last hook, is to add I just add some cymbals, some percussion elements to the outro, to the final part of this track. So I just add cymbals on every beat and it gives some interesting rhythm. And that's it. This is how I made this beat. Nothing difficult, but a lot of work was made with the sound design work and with the different sounds and presets. So hope you enjoyed that you checked this video. So hope you enjoyed this video and you a little bit dive into my music production process as an engineer and composer. So I guess a little bit later, I'll come up with some more interesting video about my music production process and you see how I create music, what I use and how I'm thinking. It's really interesting for me to share with you some interesting moments from my own production and I hope you enjoyed it.